So why is the story so racially tinged, and is the American legal system biased against blacks, as some claim? Joining us now from Orlando is Hilary Shelton. He is the Washington director of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, better known by its initials, the NAACP. It is the largest civil rights organization in the United States. Also joining us, Vanderbilt University professor Carol Swain. She's a professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt, and she joins us from Nashville. Thank you both for joining us. Why has this case created so much racial tension in this country? And Carol, why don't I start with you?
I feel like that this case has been racialized and politicized in some ways for partisan purposes. It's very tragic, that the young man Trayvon Martin lost his life under those circumstances. But when you look at, the hundreds of thousands of young black men that are dying every day in our streets, and, there's no focus on the violence that's taking place in our communities, to me, that's equally as important. And I look at the fact that if this case had been two black men or two white men, or even properly characterized as a confrontation that ended tragically between two minorities, we wouldn't be sitting here today discussing it. It wouldn't be a national case, and charges probably would not have been brought against Zimmerman at all. In fact, the fact that he was acquitted, given the evidence that the jury saw, suggests that, this was a case that should not have been brought, and if it was brought, it should not have been more than a manslaughter case.
Well, let me give Hilary a chance to respond.
Well, let me say I strongly disagree. I mean, the reason it's been racialized, as you'd like to say, or the reason it's been raised as such a high presence in the media and throughout the country is that people are outraged. They're outraged because an unarmed 17-year-old youth.
Excuse me,
Carol, give Hilary a chance.
Give me a break, sis. I know you got a lot to say. Probably not a lot going on your university, so I know you want to play it all out here. But what you have is a case in which a 17-year-old youth, unarmed, coming with nothing more than a can of tea and some candy from a 7-Eleven, walking legally through a housing complex, a gated community, if I might, going to his father's fiance's house, is accosted by someone that first actually tracked him down, actually confronted him, I'm sure put his hands on him and assaulted him, got into a fight as he tried to protect himself, pulled out a gun and shot him to death. If that's not premeditation, I don't know what is. The only thing more outrageous, quite frankly, is that when the police came in, they took him in and decided to let him go, saying he must not have done anything wrong. The prejudices that run through a case like this are outrageous when you think about it. If two white guys had done the same thing, the police never would have let them go in the first place, and the same thing is true of two African Americans. Now, you said something rather offensive, but I'll go ahead and address it anyway. You said that we should focus on what's happening to African American children, and we should. The number one cause of death of African American children through the age of 19, 45% of all the gun-related homicides are African American children. Yes, we need to do something about that. The number one cause of death of African American boys between 15 and 19, gun violence. Yes, we need to do something about that. But for some reason, folks like you and the gun lobbies have decided that you can actually create a situation in which when one of our children, or even 26 people, are killed in a schoolhouse, that somehow America needs to go out and buy more guns. I don't know if the NRA, if the Gun Dealers Association, if any of the other gun associations that are paying money are paying you to say these kind of things, but this is dangerous for the whole country. Now, I know we haven't started talking about stand your ground yet, and we should, because stand your ground goes to fix a problem that was never broken,
Hilary,
and make it
I'm
dangerous
ready
for all
to
of us in the
jump in
process.
at any time.
Well, Hilary, we'll get to stand your ground in just a bit, but I want to give Carol a chance to respond to you, and then I want to move on.
Please do. Thank you.
One of the things that's bothered me about the Trayvon Martin case is that the people that are stirring the pot of racial unrest, they ignore the fact that he had drugs in his system, that the schools, he had a record with the schools where they had found burglary tools on him, and that he may very well have been behaving suspiciously, and all that. There's no evidence to suggest that, there's no evidence to suggest that Zimmerman accosted him first. and Zimmerman is the only witness, and some of the people, maybe there's one other witness, but Zimmerman's account is that Trayvon threw the first punch, broke his nose, and had him down on the ground, banging his head against the cement, and the physical evidence supported that, and that was one reason I think the jury decided to acquit him. Plus, Zimmerman was on the phone with the police constantly. He was the neighborhood watchman.
Well,
the neighborhood watchman is supposed to watch out to see if they see any suspicious behavior. So I don't think you can ignore all of that. And then you mentioned about the gun control.
In America, we have a constitution. Carol, we're going to kind of get far astray. I just want to kind of focus this a little bit more, because I think you're kind of touching on something, and I want to get both of you to react to this. There seems to be this court where the facts are laid out, and then there's the court of public opinion, and they seem to be kind of, they don't seem to be even evolving in the same universe in many respects. Carol's kind of touching on the case, and a lot of the stuff that came out in the case, it's not the same sort of thing that's being kind of promulgated in the court of public opinion. And to get to kind of Carol's point, the media seems to very much enjoy this kind of story. It does drive up ratings. And doesn't that gin up people's emotions about this sort of thing? And I'll give you a chance to talk about that, Hilary.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. No, I think one of the concerns is that the instructions given to the jury was so extremely narrow that it didn't talk about the issue of profiling. Very clearly, what Mr. Zimmerman said was that they keep getting away with this. He keeps saying they think they can do anything, the theys. In essence, he placed Trayvon Martin in the category of whoever they are. They seem to be a stereotype in his mind of African-American youth, right around 17 years of age. They love to wear hip-hop garb like, quite frankly, a hoodie. In essence, in this case, even Zimmerman said he wasn't doing anything except walking through, and he thought he was suspicious. Now, I appreciate all those other things you were saying, but all that is speculation. The real facts are Zimmerman actually confronted him. Zimmerman started asking him as if he was some sort of police officer, what are you doing here? Who are you? Those kind of things. And I can only assume that he stopped him from walking because otherwise he would have kept moving. Mr. Martin was not interested in talking to Mr. Zimmerman. He mentioned to his girlfriend that he very well believed that this crazy person was actually following him, stalking him, if I might, which is also against the law, by the way. And even if you get to the case of what happened there, I'd like to figure out at some point how it is, as the defense attorneys put it, Trayvon Martin was able to hold Mr. Zimmerman's arms down with his knees, but Mr. Zimmerman was able to reach behind his back and pull out his gun. That raises a lot of concerns. I think there was a lot missing in this. There was a premeditation on Mr. Zimmerman's part that seems not to have come through. He saw him from the window. He went out and started following him. He tracked him down. He made the phone calls. The police told him, as they do in every community watch group, number one, you're not supposed to be armed. Number two, you're not supposed to confront those who think they're committing a crime.
I think we're kind of, Hilary, I'm sorry I have to jump in here. I think we're kind of getting in the weeds with both of you, and this is an international audience. So let me play some sound from President Obama. I want to get your reaction to that, and I've got some follow-up questions. So let's listen to what the president had to say about Trayvon Martin.
When Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away.
Should the president have jumped in with this case being as sensitive as it was and offering that analysis?
You'll see people responding from California to New York. They're responding from Chicago to here in Florida. You see
they are, because they're being stirred up by
all racial groups. You see whites and blacks and Native Americans and Hispanics all outraged that someone will be able to literally get away with murder.
People are stirring it up with distorted facts.
Listen, if you want the country to remain ignorant, I appreciate that. It probably serves your purposes. But I think people should be informed. These people believe there's a real problem with a law that ends up with the death of a teenager that wasn't doing anything at all, and the guy that killed him being able to walk away scot-free. An unarmed teenager, if I might say so myself. So those issues, I think, very well still have to be in the forefront. The president absolutely should have said something, and quite frankly, I hope you'll play what the Attorney General said yesterday at the NAACP's National Convention.
You're kind of jumping ahead of us. We'll get to that in a minute, but Carol, quickly if you can, because I do have a lot of ground to cover.
I believe that that politically people are being stirred up, that many of the ones that are out there marching did not watch the whole trial. There was evidence presented that Trayvon had reached his father's girlfriend's house, and that he turned back, and so he had reached the house and pounding someone's head against the cement. I mean, that could kill a person. There's every reason, you know, there's evidence to support that Zimmerman thought his life was in danger, and of course he should not, you know, this is tragic that it ended in the death of a teenager, but our teenagers are being slaughtered across the country in urban cities, and the NAACP, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, they almost say nothing. They need to be out there addressing that, not focusing on one case and stirring racial poison in this country. And there are problems with our criminal justice system, but in this particular case, I think the jury looked at the evidence and they rendered the only decision that they could render, and we should be teaching people about the laws, about the criminal justice system, about the jury system, and not trying to foment racial hatred.
Carol, Hilary, thanks so much for such a spirited discussion. We're going to continue it, but we do need to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment.